Hello, everyone, and welcome to our July office hours. This month's topic is group therapy, mastering group blocks for sales and operations. I'm Christopher Devlin, your moderator for today's session. I'm joined by our host, Ross Baker, our product manager, who brings a wealth of expertise, and he'll be guiding us through our topics for today. Just a quick recap on screen of what we are covering in today's session. Before we dive in, I just wanted to give a quick note. You should find a question and answer box in your Zoom panel. Feel free to put any questions you might have in there at any time. I'll be doing my best to answer those as we go through. And if there's any that we think make sense to discuss as a group with Ross together, we can do that at the end of the call. After the webinar, as usual, we'll be sending out a recap email with links to the recording and additional resources as well on today's topic. There'll be some polls peppered throughout the discussion today too, so feel free to answer those as they come up. And don't forget to mark your calendar for the next session, which will be a month from today, Thursday, August 7th, 2025 at 11 a.m. Eastern. So with that, thanks for being here, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Ross.
All right, thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. We have a lot to talk about in groups today, so I'll go ahead and just jump right into it with our custom group rates and our new rates and restrictions that we have. So some of you may already have the new custom group rates and restrictions activated. So some of these screens may already look familiar to you. If not, feel free to reach out to support, and they can be more than happy to activate our new rates and restrictions for custom group rates for your property. I already have a group here set up with a custom group rate assigned here. And again, with this new rates and restrictions that we have a little bit of a different screen here. And we've moved a couple options here to this rate info tab. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the rate info tab. You can see what used to be on the summary screen, the add-on buttons, hide rates, tax exempt. This is now on this new screen. And if I did have a travel agent attached to this group, I could be able to do the commissions here as well. So with this new rates and restrictions, what you are now able to do with custom rates is you can now add deposit requirements and cancellation penalties to custom rates. So from the over here on the right-hand side, we now have the group rates and restrictions. And from here, you can go ahead and for this group that has a custom group rate, you can assign a deposit requirement and also a cancellation penalty if you'd like to this group. And what this is going to do is it's going to follow the same logic and the same flow as if you have a deposit requirement on a reservation. So it's going to add the deposit requirement or the cancellation penalty to each reservation within this group. And you can see once I added the deposit requirement, it does add the description of the deposit requirement underneath there. So you can kind of get a better idea of the deposit requirement or the cancellation policy that you added to the group. The drop-down is going to show all the deposit requirements that you have configured in your hotel or in your property. So whatever is already pre-configured in your hotel settings is going to show there. So if you don't have any deposit requirements configured, you'll just need to add those into the hotel settings first. And then if you are doing a group that has a pre-configured rate, so not a custom rate, but a pre-configured rate that you've already created, and it does have a deposit or cancellation penalty attached to that rate already, you will be able to see that deposit requirement and that cancellation penalty here. You won't be able to edit it from here because it will be, you'll have to edit it from the rate configuration screen. But you'll at least be able to see it from the group screen, so you'll be able to know that your pre-configured rate may have a deposit requirement, what the deposit requirement description is there. Something new that most of you probably have not seen before, even if you do have the custom group rates and restrictions new feature turned on, is the ability to have custom rate add-ons and have add-ons inclusive, exclusive, or bundled with the price. So this is something new. So if you are interested in this, please contact support and we can certainly go ahead and take a look to see if this is something that we could activate for your property. What you may notice here is there's actually two different areas that we can add add-ons into this group here. So the first one up here is what you're probably already used to, being able to add add-ons, what we call on the group level. So this is what you were used to before when you had groups with add-ons. This is going to be exclusive only, so you cannot make these inclusive to the rate, but you can make them exclusive add-ons to the group level. So I'm going to go ahead and just add parking here for this group level there. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to my group there. With a group level add-on, these add-ons up here, as I mentioned, these are exclusive only. And the other thing with this is you are able to remove these add-ons from individual reservations. So I added a parking add-on here, but let's say not everyone's going to be parking. So I may, as they come in and I ask them, oh, do you have a vehicle? And they say no, I can actually remove that add-on from those individual reservations. When it comes to our new custom rate add-ons, these add-ons, think of these add-ons as add-ons attached to the rate itself. So as if you were configuring a rate with an add-on attached, to give you the same logic down here as well. So with these, you are not able to remove these from individual reservations because these are going to be attached to the rate level. So if you add it down here, just remember that you won't be able to remove them from individual reservations. But on the flip side of that, you are able to make them inclusive to the rate themselves, which is something that we weren't able to do before. So for this group here, let's say I went ahead and they negotiated breakfast into their rate. So I'm going to go ahead and make this breakfast an inclusive to the rate itself. So if the rate is $100, what that's going to do is it's actually going to make the room revenue $80 and then have this $20 F&B revenue in there. For the guest is going to see a $100 rate, and they're not going to see the breakup of the $80 and the $20. But you can go ahead and just make it inclusive that way. When you go ahead and select it, you just go ahead and toggle that to use the add-on there. All right. So that's the difference between the group level add-on and also the rate level add-on. So that's actually going to bring us to our first poll that Chris has. Does your property use custom group rates, configured rates, or a mixture of the two? Okay, Chris will we'll try to share these results at the end of the office hours here. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and look at the restrictions part of our new custom group rates. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the room block detail tab here. I already have the blocks set up here with my room blocks and my room types that I have. Now, if we go into the rate screen here, just using this toggle, we now have an option to show restrictions. So if I go ahead and click that, it now gives me the ability to add some restrictions to this custom group rate. We have two restrictions that you can add to the custom group rates. The first one is the minimum length of stay, and then we also have closed for arrivals. So those are the two restrictions that you can add to the custom group rates here. And then there's different ways you can add those. So if you want to add it for an entire day for all room types, you can go ahead and use this top part here. So for this group on this Monday, let's say I want to go ahead and add a must stay 2 nights for the. So if they check in on this Monday, they have to stay 2 nights for this group. I can go ahead and add it to the top here, and it'll add it for the room types below. I could also just do a single room type if I'd like as well. So let's say for this queen room, I want to go ahead and say well, this queen room, I want a must stay 3 for that Monday, and then for that Tuesday, it's going to be a must stay 2. I can go ahead and add it for individual room types for individual days as well. The other thing I can do is I can add it for the entire group if I'd like. So if I come over here to the left, I have minimum length of stay. So let's say for this entire group, no matter what night they come to check in, I want a must stay of 2 nights. I can go ahead and add the must stay of 2 nights there. And then with the restrictions, you have to save it down there. Just go ahead and update that to save it. The other thing that you are able to do with this minimum length of stay is you can, if you have a must stay of 2 here, you can go ahead and add a higher restriction. So let's say for this Monday, I'm just go ahead and say, well, Monday it's going to be a must stay for 3. The others are must stay to 2. I can go ahead and save that there. It's still going to say that the group itself has a must stay length of 2 because it does, except there's a higher restriction on this Monday. If for some reason I do a lower restriction or I get rid of one of these days here, and I go ahead and save that, well, it did get rid of that group must stay 2 because there isn't a must stay for the entire group stay there anymore. So to go ahead and remove that over there. The other option that we have for restrictions is closing to arrivals. It's going to be the same thing if I want to close it for an entire day. So let's say this Tuesday, I want to just close it so there's no arrivals being booked on this day coming in. Again, I can do it for the entire day here, or I could do it for a specific room type. So let's say just for this double queen, I want to go ahead and just restrict the arrivals for that. I can go ahead and do that. Another thing you can do would be if, let's say you have a wedding party, wedding group, and you have a suite that's reserved, for the bride and groom. You can go ahead and just go ahead and close that, just so somebody doesn't accidentally book that isn't supposed to book that room, because okay, this is for the bride and groom. The sales manager will be the one actually making this reservation for the bride and groom. They're not going to call. It'll restrict the front desk from going ahead and accidentally booking that room for another, maybe another guest coming in that shouldn't be having that room. You can also add a close to arrival for the entire group. So obviously, if you do a close to arrival for the entire group, you won't be able to make any reservations for the group through the front desk create reservation flow. But this was a good practice in case you do have, let's say the group is going to be a rooming list only group. You can go ahead and just close to arrivals. And what that's going to do is going to restrict the reservations being made through that create reservations. Restrictions are not checked when you do them through this rooming list tab. So that is something to keep in mind when you're using the rooming list tab. Restrictions are not being checked. So they're only being checked if you're making these reservations through the create reservation, the reservation flow. So if you do have a rooming list, that is something good to keep in mind, that you can go ahead and just close to arrivals. Sometimes if you have a large group and it's a rooming list, there's going to be, a few guests that don't realize that somebody else is making the reservation for them. They might call the front desk to say, hey, I have this group, I need to make a reservation. Front desk goes in, makes that reservation, not knowing that there's a rooming list coming for that group. And then you double booked that guest because when the rooming list comes in. So if you close to arrivals that way, that'll actually prevent the front desk from making that reservation when you're expecting that rooming list to come in. So another thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes to the rules and restrictions is most third parties actually do not support grabbing rules and restrictions from us. So if you are using something like Duetto or Delphi, you will have to add these deposit requirements or cancellation penalties on their level as well. It actually does not grab it and will not recognize if there's a deposit or cancellation penalty. So you may have to add it into that level as well. Same with the restrictions as well. It may not recognize it at their level because most do not support rates and restrictions on custom rates. So that is something to keep in mind when it does come to the rates, deposit requirements, cancellations, and the restrictions itself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the rooming list. So one thing that we actually activated for all properties a couple months ago, I believe, is the rooming list import button here. So this allows you to easily import a rooming list and not have to create the reservations individually. So this is a big time saver, especially if you have a group that has a lot of different rooms and you're expecting a rooming list. You don't have to go in and make them using this function anymore. You can go ahead and import a rooming list, and the PMS will go ahead and create those reservations for you. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the rooming list template here. So I have a rooming list template here, and on here it does have a couple headers there and just some information here of just kind of importing the reservations into this system. So this template, I believe, will be shared if you don't have it already. But just some things to keep in mind when you're using this template. Do not change the header titles. So the system is going to look for these exactly. So first name, last name, arrival date, departure, room type, occupancy, email, and phone number. The order does not matter, so feel free to change this how you would like it. So if you want to have last name first, or so last name, then first name, and then room type, you can certainly go ahead and move the order around as you'd like. The other thing is to make sure that the date format is the same as your hotel, because it's not going to recognize it if you are importing the date format and it is backwards. So for the hotel that we were using, it is using a day month format. So I just went ahead and made sure that my date format is going to be the same that the hotel is expecting there. For the room types, just make sure that you write the room types as it's written in the PMS itself. A good practice is to go ahead and just create drop downs of your room types on here. You can go ahead, if you have it Excel, this is a Google Doc, you can go ahead and just create different drop downs. This is also beneficial. You can send this template out to maybe your group contact and have them fill it out, and then you can ensure that they are selecting the right room types. And you can also maybe do the drop downs with the dates if you'd like as well, just to ensure they're putting the right dates in. And then the other thing is before you upload it, you just need to make sure that it is saved as a CSV file. So when you go to do that with Google, I think you just download as a CSV. With an Excel, you just save it as a CSV file. So that is just make sure that when you go to upload it, it is a CSV file. So with this, I'm going to make a couple changes to here just to kind of show what happens if for some reason a date range is off. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and make this the 14th instead of the 12th. And you can see my group itself does not go to that date. Okay. So my group itself only goes to the 12th. But I'm going to go ahead and change this to the 14th. And I'm not going to put a room type on here. Just to kind of show you what happens if you upload it and there is something kind of incorrect or not right about the rooming list. So another thing also you could do is the system is going to look for these headers to grab the information that it needs, but feel free to add additional headers in here. Obviously, it's not going to be uploaded into the PMS at all, but for any internal notes that you want to add or anything, if you're sending this to maybe the group contact and you want to have some more information or another line here, you can certainly go ahead and add different columns. It just won't be uploaded or added anything into the PMS. So I'm going to go ahead and download this as a CSV file. And from our rooming list, I'm going to go ahead and hit the import button, import my rooming list that I just downloaded. And you're going to get a preview of all the reservations before the reservations are created. So at this stage, the reservations are not created yet. And you can actually see I can't create the reservations because it does catch the errors that I had. So the first one was that the first date was out of my group range. So I can go ahead and correct that if I'd like, or how I would like, and make sure that's the right date. And I didn't have a room type selected on here. So I can go ahead, it's going to highlight that, and I can go ahead and select the room type I like as well. I can change or update any names. So also if a name is missing, it'll highlight there saying that the name is missing. So I can go ahead and update, change any names if I like. I also have this guest info tab here. So I can go ahead and look at the guest info tab, and I can go ahead and see that the email got ported over, and also the phone number. You can see here an email did not get ported over because it actually was not a proper email format. We don't highlight that because it's not required for the reservation, but it will only port over valid email addresses there. So once I've just gone ahead and checked that the reservations are correct, I can go ahead and click the create reservation there. This is going to actually lock the rooming list, so I won't be able to create any reservations using the rooming list at this point. Keep in mind, though, if you are, the front desk could still technically make a reservation using the create reservation flow through the front desk. So that is also a possibility. So keep that in mind. But for the rooming list itself, you actually cannot create reservations through the rooming list. You can still go in and do other things to the room. You can go to the summary tab, rate info tab. So you can still go through different tabs, and you can also get out of there if you'd like and do other things. But if you go back to the rooming list, it does lock it. So let me go ahead and refresh. We are in a test environment here, so that is why it might be taking a little bit longer to upload these few reservations. It should just be uploading these here in just a matter of seconds. So we'll just give that an extra minute. As I said, we are in a test environment that doesn't run as quickly as our production environment. So, but as you can see, as reservations are being created, they are showing up on here. And then once it's done, it should populate there. So it will go ahead and let you know that all reservations were created. If something did fail, you will get a message on here that it will be a red banner here saying that reservations did fail, and it will give you a reason why. The probable reason why reservations may fail is because there wasn't enough room in the group block. Again, you would have already corrected any date ranges, anything like that. So if a reservation, if it does fail, it's probably because there wasn't enough rooms in the block. But it would create all the other reservations until it runs out of the group block there. And then with the rooming list, you do have the option and the ability to do some bulk changes to the rooming list here. So you can select the rooming list. You can select all the reservations there, or you can just do, a few select if you'd like. And with that, you can go ahead and we do have this edit button here. You can change arrival dates, departure dates, room types, and even occupancy. And then obviously, if you only change one of these, the rest are all kept the same. So even if they all have a different arrival date, a different departure date, and all you do is change the room type, it's just going to change the room type and keep all the arrival dates and departure dates the same. And the same with occupancy. You can also edit the names from here too. So if you hit or edit names, it does give you a list, and you can go ahead and edit the names there. And from this screen, you can also add accompanying guest names as well to these reservations. So if I want to go ahead and hit edit and add the accompanying guests, I can go here and then just go ahead and add all the accompanying guests to these reservations there. I also have the auto assign room buttons, which will automatically assign the rooms. And then also the bulk check-in and the bulk checkout feature as well. You can go ahead and do a bulk check-in for these rooms. So if it is a rooming list and it is all routed to the group, so you don't really need to worry about getting individual payments from these reservations as they check in, and they're all arriving at the same time, you can just do a bulk check-in. It checks them all in. Same thing with the bulk checkout as well. If payment's already received, you can go ahead and do a bulk checkout as well there too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go back to our summary tab here and show you a couple other features that we have. The first one is a newer feature that we have, which is now you can print the confirmation letter that you would used to just send by email. So now you can go ahead and print it so you can have a copy of that, or you can just pull it up on your screen, do a print to PDF, and kind of view what that confirmation letter looks like when it's being sent um, to the group contact or whoever you send it to. You could keep that for your file. So that is a new feature that you have there. Kind of also matches because we did also have that for the guest confirmation too, where you can go ahead and instead of sending an email for the guest confirmation, you can print the guest confirmation as well. The other thing I want to talk about here is the ability to have shoulder dates. So with shoulder dates, that does allow you to be able to create reservations for the group up to 5 days prior to the group arrival date and leave up to 5 days past the group arrival date. So what that will do is you can go ahead and make a reservation for it and have it arrive. The group itself is arriving on the 9th, or excuse me, the 8th, and checking out on the 12th. But if you have a couple guests that want to arrive a couple days earlier, you can go ahead and make that shoulder date. And now these guests, you can go ahead and you can see extend it up to 5 days before the actual group date was arrived. So it does say that there is no availability in the group allocation because with shoulder dates, you're actually not holding any rooms aside for these. So you're not setting aside a certain number of groups. So what it's going to do is obviously tell you, hey, that you don't have any groups, you're going to borrow from the house. So it's going to go ahead and borrow the room from the house. And it's going to go ahead and make that change there to the reservation and borrow the room from the house. I'll just let that go here. Again, the test environment's a little slow today, but okay. So as you can see, with the shoulder dates, you now have these dates added, and it went ahead and added the pickup and the total to here. You notice you can't actually make any edits to this to these dates at all. But as you pick up shoulder dates, it'll go ahead and borrow from the house and add it on there. So this is a good option, especially if you have a weekend group and you want to extend it a day before, a day after, in case people want to come a little bit earlier. It'll go ahead and use the same group rate and just to go ahead and extend that there for you. And then just kind of talking on the borrowing from house, there's a couple ways that you borrow when you have a group. So if you are, let's say you don't have any more availability in the double queen room and you move a king room to a double queen, it'll actually increase the total and the pickup that you have for the double queen as long as you have the availability in the house, and it will minus that from the king room. So you're borrowing within the group there. So you're borrowing the same room type, you're just borrowing it within the group. But you also have the ability to borrow outside the group as well. So if I go into this reservation and go to the stay card here, I can actually borrow from a reservation, from a room that is outside of the group. So if I go into this room type here, and I say the one king suite, I'm just go ahead and change the room type. I'm not going to do a charge there. And it's going to give me this message saying that it's not part of the group block again. Do you want to borrow it from the house? So I'm going to go ahead and borrow that from the house there. And you can see it now is a 1-bedroom king. The rate still stays the same. And now when you go into the room block details, it does now have the 1-bedroom suite on there. And because I borrowed it from the house and it wasn't a part of the original block, it is grayed out there. So I can't really actually make any changes to the total pickup that I have. But it does allow you to do those upgrades for those group rooms that you have. Okay, we're going to move on to allotments now. So allotments are going to be very similar to groups. The main difference is an allotment, if you're unfamiliar with them, Think of them as a long-term group where the rooms or the reservations are kind of coming and going, um, and there isn't really like a set, check-in, check-out date for allotments. You probably are familiar with allotments, or if you are near a or near an airport. Most cases for allotments are for properties that might be close to airports that have a agreement with an airline. Say an airline reaches out and says, hey, can you make sure I always have 5 rooms set aside at your hotel for my crew? So that you would actually set up an allotment for that rather than setting up a group. Because you're not sure, there isn't a start and stop date. It's going to be kind of rolling. It may just be for one night, and then the next night you have another set of reservations within the allotment. So that's kind of the main difference between an allotment and a group. Best practices for allotments is, a lot of times when you have these contracts, they might be for a year out. Best practice is to really try not to make them more than a year total. If they do need to be more than a year, you probably just create another allotment. Just because as reservations are created, it does, especially if it's an airline crew and you're constantly getting, 5, 10 different reservations a night. After a year, your reservation screen, your activity log, it'll just be too much to kind of really manage past reservations. So best practices for an allotment is kind of keep them around a year. Sometimes you can make them 13 months if you just kind of need to overlap 2 different years. But just to kind of keep that in mind that the longer the allotment is active and the more reservations you have, the more cluttered and kind of the more reservations you're going to see in the reservation list, your longer your activity log is going to be as well. And then when it comes to allotments, there's actually several different ways you can release an allotment. Obviously, you do have the allotment release date, which is going to be similar to the group release date. Probably don't use this as much for an allotment itself because allotments are kind of rolling and they're for kind of long term. So you may not actually have a set release date that you would release the allotment. You also have the button here for release now, which is probably what you were used to in the groups as well. The other thing with the allotments is we have rolling allotments. So when you go ahead and go into the allotment details and you have release dates, these are what we call rolling allotments. So for here, you can see for this allotment here, it is set for 4 days, which means 4 days prior to this date, these rooms are actually going to be released. And this is done automatically through the end of day process. So you don't actually have to worry about manually releasing allotments on your own. You can go ahead and do a rolling release. And you can set it for, if you want it for all days, you can just come over here, put it in for all the days and push it to the entire allotment. You can also change it for certain days if you want. You can go ahead and just kind of make it for certain days and also the certain room types as well. And then the other thing when it comes to releasing, I'm going to go back to groups a little bit and talk about how to release groups for individual days. So I'm going to go back to that group that I had. And my little space camp there. So you do have the room release date set here, which will automatically release those rooms on this day for the night audit during the night audit process, so you don't have to worry about it then. You can manually release all the rooms there by using this button here, which will automatically release all the rooms. The other way to do it also, if you go to this availability tab here, which shows you your availability, and you go up to groups and you select groups, and then I'm actually going to go to the right time. So if you look at the groups, and you can see this is the group that we have. It actually tells you how many rooms are being held and how many rooms are being picked up, and you can see that right here. This does allow you to manually release individual room days if you'd like. So I can go ahead and just click on that, and it will release the remaining rooms for this day. I'll go ahead and select release, and as you can see, it released all the remaining rooms, so it only is holding those 6 rooms that I've already picked up. And I can go ahead and do that for different days if I'd like. This is something good to keep a look at probably on a daily basis, especially if you have groups coming up. It's an easy way to just make sure that the rooms are all released and you're not holding an extra room that you may be unaware of for a group. So you can go in, check it, and just, look at for the day, for today, tomorrow, to see if there are any groups in there that there may be a room that is being held that you weren't aware of. That way you don't run in the situation where you're at says you're at 100% occupancy, and then all of a sudden you go down with the room and you're wondering why, and it's because I had a room I was being held that wasn't released. So it's something good to kind of just take a look at on a daily basis. Train your front desk staff to kind of take a look at it too. It's another tool for them to go in and release those rooms there. So. And that brings us to our next poll, which is about our allotment release. So tell us about your usage of allotments. Are you using them? All right. Thank you, everyone. Again, we'll try to share those at the end of the call here if we do. The one thing I do also want to kind of mention and go over is the ability to post uh, notes to group members. So you now have the ability, and this is whether you have the custom group rates active or not, but you can go ahead and post a note and have that note posted to all the reservations within the group. So for this one, I want to maybe post a note that says, inform guests shuttle leaves at 7 a.m. daily. So I can go ahead and post my note here, click post to all group members, and go ahead and post. Once I post, I'll see that note over here. I'll also see that it was posted to all the group members. I can remove it if I like, so I do have that edit the delete button, but I can see it is posted to all group members. And what that's going to do is post that note to every reservation within this group. So that is reservations that were already created, also reservations that have not yet been created yet. When they are created, when the reservations are created, the note will show in the reservation. So you can see I went into this reservation here, and I do now have the note over here, inform guests shuttle leaves at 7 a.m. daily. And I do see that it is a group note. So I do know that it did come from the group itself. If I do click it, I cannot edit the group note myself because it did come from the group. But it's a great way to be able to kind of post notes to all reservations within a group. You can still post normal reservations to the group details here. Just don't hit the post all group members, and it'll still show there as well. So, okay. So I think we kind of went through a lot fairly quickly. I think I'm going to hand this back over to Chris.
Thank you so much, Ross. Really appreciate it. We got a lot of really good questions throughout the call. So I'm just going to, one or two of them I have for the group to discuss. First one we have is from Marietta. She's asking, earlier when you imported the CSV for the rooming list, it didn't let you have the departure date of the 14th. If you had shoulder dates set up, would it have worked? My assumption is probably not. But do you know offhand, Ross?
Not with shoulder dates, not yet. So that it will be just the group block itself, checking the group blocks. There is an improvement that we will be offering shoulder dates on that, but currently right now, it will not allow the shoulder dates.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And then another one that just came through, Hannah was asking, is there a way to post group alerts? I know we were just looking at the group notes functionality. I don't believe there's a way to make that an alert on the reservation specifically so far.
No, not yet. I will say that is something that is planned in the future. So being able to post the alerts from the group, um, that is something that is in the works and on the roadmap for future release.
Perfect. Well, I think that might have been all. Wait, we might have one more. Oh, a question from someone in the group asking about notes and files. They're not seeing that on their groups. In that case, if you would just open, or if you'd open a ticket with support, we can definitely take care of that for you. Or you can even just send me an email if you have my email address there to respond. We'll get that taken care of for you.
Yeah, just for the notes and files. So if you do have the custom group rates active, the notes and files will be a separate tab. And that's only if you don't have files activated, file storage activated, it'll just say notes. So it won't be notes and files like the demo property that we were using. If you don't have the custom group rates feature active, um, and you just have notes, it'll just be in where the notes section normally was in the summary screen. Um,
Perfect. And I think that actually answers Taylor's question that just came through too. Why does my group page not look like yours? Probably those two things, notes and files being enabled for the property and the custom group rates and add-ons to it. Both of which are feature toggles we can enable for you. So reach out to support or just send an email to myself. We can get that taken care of for you. Okay. Oh, we have a few more that came through. Do you know of a way to create a pro forma group bill that excludes the amounts for IPO guests? That's probably individual pay zones. So do you know of a way to create a pro forma group bill that excludes the amounts for individual pays guests?
there is not a way to do that right now. That would be a good feature request to submit there to be able to include that, um, to just include maybe routed
Hmm,
guests. But yeah, currently right now it would just do all the pro forma is just going to look at all the reservations.
perfect. Yeah. Thanks for that one. We have another one here from Kari. What is the best way to hold weekends or days in the future to save for possible groups or weddings? So to hold inventory, I'm guessing, just for groups in the future. I think
I don't know if I can you repeat that? Sorry, Chris. I don't know if
I
I
think what she's
followed
looking
that.
for is basically with the anticipation that there will be weekend groups coming in for like weddings and so on. She's asking what's the best way to hold inventory for those specific dates. My recommendation, honestly, would be to create a placeholder group block because that's pretty much what it's doing. It's holding inventory for you there. Obviously, you won't necessarily know which room types, how many, and so on. But that's one option for you. There is also, depending upon which CRSs you integrate with and so on, there can be overbooking functionality, which in turn allows underbooking when you do negatives. So if that's something that you're interested in looking into, you can reach out to support again. We can give you more information on that or Freshdesk. But that is an option. Has other implications too, which we can discuss with you, but that's also an option. But ideally, you would do it through the group blocks to hold the inventory, and then it will all be tracked in one area.
Yeah. And if you're also looking to just, if you have 100 rooms and you want to make sure that, transient can only book, 70 rooms, we do have the ability to add cell limits as well, where you can actually kind of decrease your availability. You can do that ahead of time as well. I believe that is a feature toggle. I don't think that's available for all properties, but that may be something that might help as well, where you can go ahead and, remove 20 rooms from your inventory to sell for those weekends. And then when you have the group block, you can just go ahead and remove that sell limit.
Yeah, good ideas there. Amanda was asking about previous office hours. Amanda, if you're looking for those, you can find them on our knowledge base, which you can get to from the support portal. And you'll see them listed there just simply by doing a search. They'll all be in there for you. Tracy, can you review the information to close off blocks to rooming list only? So I think that's what you were talking about with those restrictions, Ross. Close to arrival, I think you did. Was that correct?
Yeah, close to arrival. So if you have a rooming list, you can go ahead and just make that close to arrival for the entire group. Um, as mentioned, the rooming list is not checking for our availability restrictions when it or not availability restrictions. I'm sorry. is not looking for those restrictions, those close to arrivals, minimum stays. It's not looking at those restrictions there. So you can go ahead and do the close to arrival, and that will basically close the group off. So then your front desk won't be able to make those reservations through the create reservation um, process that they normally would. So that's another thing. Just kind of make sure that when you do have groups, if you are group heavy, it is good practice to make sure that your front desk is making those reservations through the create reservation flow as if they were making a standard reservation, and trying to avoid your front desk from going into groups if they have access and doing it through the rooming list. Because when you do it through the rooming list, again, it's not checking for those restrictions. It's just making those reservations, and then you're also not grabbing all the information that you would as you're going through the create reservation flow. So it is just something to make sure that your front desk, when people are calling for reservations for groups, but they're actually going through the create reservation flow as if they're booking a regular reservation, and try to avoid them from using the rooming list tab. I know I've been to one property where front desk was using the rooming list tab every time someone was calling for a group, and the front desk was creating those reservations there, which was causing, not being able to grab all the information. You're not grabbing the credit card information. You're not grabbing all the guest details when you're using the rooming list.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I'm going to quickly answer Tracy's last question that just came through. We'll skip to the end of the line for her. She's asking, where do I close off to arrivals? She doesn't have that rate info notes and files tab. Tracy, if you can open a ticket with our support, or you can send me an email if you have my email address there, just requesting those to be enabled. They're feature toggles. We can toggle them on for you, and then that'll be available for you to use.
And you also need to make sure that close to arrival and minimum length of stay are active restrictions that you have turned on in your settings as well. So if you don't have restrictions turned on in your settings, you won't be able to see them when it comes to the group. So you got to make sure that they are active in your settings, that you are able to make just regular rates as minimum length of stay or close to arrivals.
Perfect. So we just have a few more. We have from Moira. Is there a way to create multiple bookings at once for a series? Not currently, Moira. I think you're talking about kind of like repeating groups that can come and like a master account versus the child or dependent accounts. That's not currently functionality, but it is something on our enhancement list. So something we're aware that would be nice to have. But currently you would need to basically recreate for each of those individual group arrivals. The next one we have is from Rowena. Is there an extra fee to add the add-ons? So Rowena, I'm wondering if you mean, is there a cost to have the functionality? And that's no, the answer to that. If you're asking about adding fees to add-ons, there is functionality in the system that might achieve what you're looking for there. I'd recommend looking up add-ons on Freshdesk. And if you have a specific need that you're not getting addressed there, feel free to reach out to support, or you can also email me with that question, and hopefully we can get you the right answer there. Then we have just two more, it looks like. Moira is asking, can we create a bill for only a percentage of the total for a deposit? So let me know if you think anything different here, Ross. I know you can do different schedules with deposit policies, whereby you can certainly take a percentage of a total bill or expected bill as a deposit. With regards to creating a bill for only a percentage of the total, if that's after the fact, if the charges have posted, that would probably just be either removing some charges to get that percentage or editing the charges to be a specific percentage. I think that would be the only really ways to cover that. Do you have any input on that, Ross?
No, I think you covered it. I think unless you're looking at maybe, if you have a 50% deposit and you just want to send out maybe a bill or an invoice to that guest for that 50%, we don't have that ability yet. You'll just excuse me, you'll just see you can send the confirmation that'll have the full amount, and then it should also display that there is a deposit required on there as well. But to send out just the bill or the invoice for that amount, that is something that we don't have the ability to do.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And then we just have one more. Someone has asked or mentioned that they're having some issues with Proforma relating to groups. If you, I'm not sure who asked that question, but if you can open a ticket with us regarding that. It's not something that I'm aware of as being a larger issue. So please go ahead and open a ticket or just send me an email if you have my email address and we can take it from there. But no, should not be not something that you're experiencing. Okay, I think that looks like all the questions we have. And my apologies, I was meant to be sharing a nice screen for us to look at there. But that looks like all the questions we have. So I will go ahead and wrap up the call for today. Just as a quick reminder, we will be sending out a recap email with a link to the recording. I'll also put some resource links on there too for some of the things we've discussed. I'll include either a link to or the actual rooming list import CSV for you too. If anybody wants access to that right away, you can find that on Freshdesk if you our knowledge base. If you do a quick search for CSV rooming list, you'll find the template there. Otherwise, you'll get that in the email once we send it out. Again, please bookmark your calendar for next month, August 7th at the same time for our next session. And we thank you once again and hope you all have a great rest of the day.